What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Missflips. If you guys are new here, my name is Marissa, and typically I flip furniture, but in today's episode, I'm going to be showing you guys how I found these $1 pots and turned them into something beautiful that I'm going to be putting in my home. And I'm going to start by getting whatever that is out. So yeah, as I said, I found these at a garage sale for $1 each, and they are in pretty good shape. They're just a little bit dirty. They obviously have some leftover stuff in them, but other than that, they're honestly pretty great. So I started by cleaning them off, and when you're cleaning pots, you want to sterilize them. Why, you ask? Good question. I don't really know. I think it has something to do with the fact that, like, if you don't sterilize it, then there might be, like, contaminants or something that can harm your plant or diseases, something like that, but I'm not really sure. So anyways, we're taking some vinegar, we're scrubbing, we're sanitizing, we're doing the thing. Other people like to use bleach. I am not a fan of this, especially when it comes to my plants. I don't think bleach is I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. So we're going in there with some vinegar, and to get this little sticker residue off, I'm going in with some dish soap. And keep in mind, we are painting as well, so that is why I am scrubbing the outside of the pots, because I want my paint to adhere to the actual pot and not to dirt. But anyways, let's talk about it. Let's talk about plants. Let's talk about pots. If you guys are familiar with my channel, I am all about reducing, all about that reusing and recycling. And so when I find pots at garage sales and thrift stores and stuff like that, I love to pick them up just because, you know, you're saving yet another thing from the landfill. If you are a furniture flipper and you're usually on my channel for that specifically, you know it. You live it, you do it, you reduce, you reuse, and you recycle all the time. And there are endless amounts of things that you can reduce and reuse. All of my plates, my silverware, my glasses, the bottles that I keep my soap in, you know, little trinkets around my home, the art that I hang on my walls. Most of it is all from thrift stores. So there are a plethora of things that you can do personally that can reduce the amount of waste that we as humans create. And yes, I know that the majority of pollution and all that good stuff is caused by large corporations, and we need to hold those people accountable. We need to hold lobbying accountable and stop people from putting into motion different bills that allow them to get by any climate change restrictions. We need to stop that from happening. But at the same time, there are things that we can do, habits that we can change in our daily life to limit the amount of waste that we create. But anyways, let's get back to painting. So I am using an all-in-one white paint for my base coat. This is primer, it has the paint, and it has the top coat all in one. So I'm using this kind of like a primer, but then also like my base color. For the actual clay pot, not this one, but the one I just painted, that is going to be my primary color. But for the plastic one that I'm painting right now, I'm going to be doing a kind of similar color to what it already is. But it's just going to be a little bit more lighter. But yeah, so I'm doing 3 coats total for both of these guys, and this paint actually dries pretty fast, so I was able to like overlap my painting pretty swiftly. For my leafy boys, I'm going in with Melange's One line, and this paint is an all-in-one paint as well, so paint, primer, and top coat in there, and I'm going in with a really small detail brush to get these little leaves very cute and dainty and the lines really sharp and crisp. And once I am done doing the first coat on it, I am going to go in there and do a second coat as well, just so the color of the paint is really nice and thick and vibrant. When I'm painting furniture or really anything nowadays, I prefer to use eco-friendly paint, and this includes things like mineral paint or chalk paint. I don't really use oil paints or water-based paints too much just because the ingredients in them tend to be quite harmful. And I do really like melanges paint specifically because the glass containers are completely recyclable. So all you have to do when you're done with them is rinse them out and recycle them or reuse them in your own home. Keep them to put screws in or mix your own paint colors in and all that good stuff. So they are pretty eco-friendly over there. Though I do have to say the one complaint that I have, and if anybody watching this has the power to change this, their packaging is horrible. They come with styrofoam little bubble things or whatever. They come wrapped in plastic, like a whole bunch of plastic, way too much plastic for my liking. Um, and if anyone who is affiliated with them, has a code or is sponsored, whatever the case may be, if you're an owner, whatever, please change your packaging to more eco-friendly paper packaging. That'd be so cool. Okay. Something to also consider when you're buying paint is support small businesses, you know? Like Melange is a pretty well-known brand out there, but compared to things like Bear or Rust-Oleum or things like that, you are 100% supporting a small business. And I personally would much rather have my money go to small businesses rather than large corporations. And it's just a nice thing to do, you know? You can make friends with these people instead of not knowing the person who's behind the product. It's a great time. I honestly have never and probably will never like the flowers that I paint. Like, even when I was a kid and I was painting flowers on like my school papers or, whatever I was putting flowers on, I never really liked it. But luckily, with a pot, not every side faces out. So, I painted this and I tried to like it. I really, really did. But I decided I didn't. So that is going on the window side of our house. But yay, it's time for my favorite part, gold. The gold paint that I'm using is liquid gold and it's super beautiful and literally dries within a matter of seconds and is immovable after that. Like after you put it on there, you literally cannot get it off. So highly recommend using that when it comes to painting gold accents, lines, whatever the case may be. But yeah, so when I use my gold to do designs like this, I typically like to stay off of the original design and do something that is completely original and not really sticking with the original design that I made. And again, hate this flower. Absolutely hate it. It's absurd. I tried to do something to it to make me like it. That didn't work. So I tried to do something else to make me like it, and that didn't work either. So I just went ahead and painted over it, and yeah, just again, facing the window. I never have to see it. If you guys haven't yet and want to stay tuned for more videos like this and like my furniture flips, please make sure to subscribe and hit that little notification bell so that we can stay a happy flippin' family. So for the plastic pot, I actually changed my mind and ended up wanting to go back to a color that was more like the original color. So I painted it over with this brown and then went in with some blue paint by WiseOwl. And I actually really like this paint. It's probably my favorite paint that I've ever used, and that's saying a lot. It's a chalk paint, so it's eco-friendly, low VOC, all that good stuff. And I really love the coverage. Honestly, this is by far my favorite paint, and the only reason why I've been using melange lately over this is specifically because of the color selection. Unfortunately, Wise Owl's selection is kind of limited in my opinion. They have a lot of beautiful colors, do not get me wrong, their colors are gorgeous, the ones that they do have, but I just happened to be looking for some very specific colors recently, and they don't have the selection that I would like them to have. But hopefully that'll change in the future as they keep growing. Yeah, I cannot say enough about this paint. It is amazing, and the depth of the color, the richness that you get, the adhesion to the surface that you're painting on is spectacular. You don't need a base coat, although, you know, with any paint you would like to have a primer or a base coat or whatever, specifically because, you know, it just adds more adhesion, but you don't need one, and it's just gorgeous. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I'm creating this cutie little kind of eclectic boho-ish kind of design. And we're going with blues again for this one here. My favorite little color combo with the light blue and the darkish greenish blue. And then, of course, after I get all these coats done that are drying extremely fast, by the way, super happy with it, I'm going in there with some gold accents and just kind of cleaning up the outside of my lines. You can kind of get away with having rough edges if you go in there with the gold, and it adds a beautiful shimmering accent to it, as well as cleaning up any of the, you know, unfinished looking edges that you have. So, with my new pots comes a new cycle in our plants in the house. Obviously, we have a decent amount of plants, and for the repotting, we are starting off with this sword plant, and I am putting it into this bigger pot just because I want it to have a big home to grow into. It's a little small for this pot right now, but it's gonna grow, and it's actually growing pretty rapidly. So I needed to get it out of this pot as quickly as possible, and again, room to grow. So we start off with some soil in the pot, and if you ever see your roots getting like this through the holes in the bottom, make sure to repot it because that means it's getting too big for its pot. So as you can see, the roots are very compact, so we're just going to give it a light little squeeze here, trying to get all the roots to not be so compact, and just loosen them up a little bit so they know that it's okay to grow beyond those little barriers that it's created for itself. And once you get the majority of the roots loose and ready to go, you want to go in there and break up all of the clumps that are in the soil and then plant the little guy. So I like to dig a pretty decently sized hole and then cover up all the roots as good as possible. Press it lightly and gently into the dirt a little bit so that it's nice and secure. And yeah, give it a good watering. So when it comes to watering your plants, you want to make sure that you like sufficiently drown them. And I'm talking like drown them. So I like to put mine in my sink and like put the water over it and let the water run through. You want the water to touch every inch of your root system in your plant. And the way that you do this without, of course, actually drowning your plant is making sure that your plant has proper drainage. Drainage is so important when it comes to watering your plants. A lot of people think that they're like watering them too little or watering them too much or whatever the case may be, but honestly, there is no such thing as overwatering your plant as long as it has room to drain. You can literally turn the faucet on all day and let your pot just get wet and wet and wet and let the pot overflow, although of course that would be a waste of water and you don't have to do that, nor should you do that. But you definitely want the entire thing to be completely saturated when watering your plant, and then let it sit in your sink and let all of that water run through the bottom. This plant, I had it was my first house plant ever. It's from the times where I lived in LA. I now live in Georgia. And it was part of my journey where I did not know how to properly water plants. So the majority of its vines are bare, and I just recently learned how to water plants properly. So to get this guy looking young and youthful again, we're gonna cut off all of that bare stuff and replant it. So these aren't going to die. I'm going to clip them about, I would say 4 or 5 notches down from where the leaves are growing. That way there's a good amount of space that I can plant in the dirt. And then I'm gonna clip the vines, the rest of like the bare vines that I left, and then I'm gonna replant the whole thing into a bigger pot where it can all regrow and reestablish itself into a beautiful, gorgeous vine again. Because yeah, again, my watering skills were subpar. It seemed like my plant didn't like being watered. Like when I watered it, it got all droopy and yellow, but then when I didn't water it, it got all droopy and yellow, so I didn't really know what to do. But then I found out about that flushing method that I was talking about earlier, where you just soak the roots with as much water as possible, and then just let all that water drain through and let it just get moist, and then you want to let it dry out a little bit before your next watering, but you want to do that every time. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope that you guys found this video useful, and go forth and repaint some old pots that you have, or go find some new pots to put your plants in, and use this watering technique because it really works. But anyways, stay flippin', guys.